afternoon and welcome back to My Harlem Portraits. This is the show that wants to shed a light on the fundamental contribution of African Americans to the building of this country and on Black excellence. We have with us Linda Armstrong today, a journalist and a theater critic, and she's also my colleague at the Harlem News. She writes also for Amsterdam News, Anchor Monthly, the theater magazine, BroadwayBestShows.com, Harlem World Magazine, and is the theater editor for NewWorldReview.net. Welcome to My Harlem Portrait, Linda.
Thank you so much for having me, Maria.
So we know each other, not physically, but we have met each other many times, not knowing, I mean, you and Linda Armstrong, who writes on the paper and who writes always about Broadway and all these incredible shows. You have been a journalist for 37 years, and for over 20 of these years, you have been the A&E editor for Harlem News, which really is not just published in Harlem, but it goes in 4 boroughs and has 25,000 copies. It's distributed in 25,000 copies. So it's quite a good, very important paper. What made you choose to write all this time about theater?
Well, I just love theater so much. And I wanted to make sure that people knew what Black people were doing on theater, in theater. And so that people could come out and they could support, because theater to me is inspirational, it's educational, and it's just important that people get to tell their stories and people come to hear it and learn from it and experience it.
And you do it extremely well. I read your articles and they really tell the essence of a play or the show or the musical you are writing about. And it's very important to write about these things because, as you said, we need more and more people to come to the theater and see the shows. So from that point of view, for more than 20 years, you have done this yearly Black on Broadway's issue and also some Blacks off Broadway issues, which are very unique. They have grown over the years. And tell us how you or Pat came about this idea and how difficult or easy was it to put it and to turn it into a reality?
Well, the thing is that Pat said to me that she wanted me, because I was already covering Broadway and off Broadway. And she was saying to me, Linda, I think we should do a Blacks on Broadway issue so that people would literally see how many Broadway shows employ Black people. And I said, Pat, that would be great. I would love it. And I just, started sending out email blasts to all the press agents for all the Broadway shows and told them that we were doing this. And basically they would have to send me people's headshots, their bios, their roles, and, of course, their names. And when we put when I did the first issue, first of all, doing Blacks on Broadway takes weeks because it's sending emails, it's getting responses back, and then it's putting everything together in in the format that I wanted to go in. And then, getting that out to Pat. And when we did the first issue, over 20 years ago, I believe, when people have asked Pat about it, she said that there were like 50 photos because she's the one laying out the pictures, And now it's hundreds. Because it's so many shows that are employing African Americans. And, you have some things that are staples like The Lion King and things like that. But there's just a lot of shows, whether it's a musical or it's a drama, that are giving African American actors, a chance to be on stage, and also African American playwrights. It's a lot of wonderful things going on for Black people on Broadway. And part of doing Blacks on Broadway, and right. And so part of doing Blacks on Broadway was to bring that out so that the public knows you should be going to Broadway shows, because you might think, well, I'm not going to see anybody that looks like me on the stage, but it's not true. There are a lot of shows. You're going to see a lot of people that look like you on the stage. So, go out and support these shows. And it's something that's grown. The press agents, they love to send me the materials. When I send out the emails, I automatically start getting things back. And it's just a question of, if they're going to change a cast member or whatever is going on with the show. Well, they'll just keep me updated, like, okay, Linda, so this is the person playing this role now. And they'll send me that headshot. And, they love it. And the actors love it as well.
I'm sure, because I mean, there isn't any other newspaper that I know of that does this kind of advertising. It's really fantastic to see all the African Americans on Broadway in one issue, and which shows and what roles they're playing in, and it's fantastic. So tell me, of all these years, those moments that you felt more excited about, the shows you like most, or the moments where you had most problems, or things that upset you, or upset your work.
I mean, as a theater critic, I've been blessed in the fact that I've never really had issues with anything in terms of, I've always gotten, the opportunity to go to the shows. It's always been offered to me. I never had to beg anybody for anything. They just let me in. I mean, they would send me the invite to say, Linda, this is going on, come, and I would go. And so I've had a lot of incredible moments, in the theater. I think one of the things that really stands out for me was in Hadestown, when Andre de Shields opens the show, as everybody runs on the stage, and then he slowly saunters across the stage looking so elegant and so sophisticated, and like the whole audience just started screaming at the top of their lungs, like, oh my god. And so that was a moment that I'm always going to remember. I think also when I saw the original cast of The Color Purple on Broadway, that was very powerful. That was beautiful. So it's a lot of shows that have come. And I think one of the other shows that really stands out for me is The Mountaintop, which was a play about Dr. King, and that actually starred Samuel L. Jackson and Angela Bassett. And it was
When
such.
was this?
This was some years ago. This was some years ago. I don't remember the exact year, but I know that certain shows just they have a special place in my heart. When I see them, I'm just like, wow. And then you have the shows where you have a Black person that is being put into a role, like when Melba Moore was put into Les Mis on Broadway, and she was doing the one of the roles in that, and her 5-octave voice was absolutely gorgeous. And just to see the non-traditional casting that a lot of the shows also do, where they'll put an African American in a role that they normally wouldn't have.
Yes.
To see those opportunities being given and to recognize that, it's a beautiful thing. All of those things just make me feel so good inside when I go to see these shows, or to even see the stuff that Stephen Bird and Aaliyah Jones Harvey, the Black lead Broadway producers, do when they do A Streetcar Named Desire, and and they have it star Blair Underwood.
Cat on the Hopkins Roof.
Yes. I mean, those shows, you sit there and you're like, oh my God, this is wonderful. I love it, and just the fact that they would decide, what, we're going to show that we can do these plays too.
Yes.
And they do them so brilliantly. And then they take it from a unique perspective. When Blair Underwood played Stanley, his character was just called Stanley. It wasn't Stanley Kowalski. It was Stanley. Yes. And he made that character his own. And I remember they had a press event prior to the show opening, and I waited for everybody to interview Blair because I wanted him to myself. And then we sat down on the side and we're talking, and I told him, I said, listen, I said, you're going to be compared to other people. Don't let that bother you. You make Stanley your own. You decide how you want to approach the character, and then that's what you do. And he said, Linda, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And then I went to the show, and I had taken one of my coworkers from one of my other jobs in the daytime. And afterwards, we went backstage, And I was talking to Blair and I told him, I said, wow, you really made that role your own. It
Mhm.
was so beautiful the way you did it. It was so tender. There was just certain levels that you gave to Stanley that really rang true for me. And I remember one of the people behind the show was there. I can't recall if it was the director or one of the producers, but the lady Blair introduced me to her, and she said to me, she says, Linda, I don't understand why every night as I'm behind the wings in the scenes of violence, when the rape scenes and things like that, people in the audience are laughing, and I don't understand why are they laughing. And I said to her, I said, well, okay, a lot of the people that came here, they came here because this is Blair's Broadway debut, and they're used to seeing him in movies, right? So they're not used to being in a Broadway theater to begin with.
Mhm.
So they came here, they're already uncomfortable because they don't know how they're supposed to be acting. And then you're showing them something that's making them uncomfortable with the scene. What do
Mhm.
people do when they're uncomfortable? They laugh.
The giggle.
Right. Laughing is how people make themselves feel more at ease, like, okay, it's all right. And she said to me, she says, I never thought of it like that. And I said, yeah, think about it. These people, you guys having Blair in this show, you are opening Broadway up to them for the first time.
Mhm.
And they have to get accustomed to it and know how they're supposed to react. But when you're uncomfortable, you laugh. And that's why they're laughing. And she said, wow, now that you said it like that, I see it in a whole nother light. And it was just really, it was very nice. It was very nice just to be able to help her to understand what was going on. Because when you get certain actors to come onto Broadway, like a Denzel Washington, you're going to get people to come that might not have come in the past because they're
Mhm.
used to their movie work. But
Mhm.
when you're in that Broadway theater, there is a certain way that you carry yourself. And when people can be introduced to that, and then, I guess the uncomfortableness can go away, and they can start to really be able to get into the story and get into what is being seen on that stage, then they can learn to really appreciate being in that environment and want to come back and experience it more.
Yeah.
And then another show, Maria, that really, and I was so sad when I heard that it closed early due to COVID, was Thoughts of a Colored Man. When I saw that play was so powerful. And to see Black men on a Broadway stage being depicted in a positive, warm,
Yeah.
caring light, it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, that play really, it really just captured my heart, and I wanted everyone to make sure that they went out and supported this show, because you're going to see your uncle, your father, your brother, your cousin, and you're going to see them in a positive light. And you
Yeah.
don't normally get that for a Black man on Broadway. So those have been some of the things that have really, captured my interest and just made me say, my God, I just love it. And then theater transforms people. It lets you see something different. It lets you escape your reality and buy into what's going on the stage. And it's just something to inspire. So anything that does that, I'm all for, and I just love it. I just love it. But I've never really had any difficult times. I guess because the press agents have always been wonderful. Everybody that I've dealt with has been really wonderful, very cooperative. They never give me any problems. And plus, I've always been a member of Drama Desk and things like that. And so I'm gonna be on the list anyway to go to these shows, and
Yes.
on the approved list. So that's always been fantastic. That's something that I really am appreciative for. And I guess I'm also appreciative because when I first started at Amsterdam, um, I used to just do church basement plays. And I said to my editor there, I said, well, why can't I go to Broadway? And he was like, oh, Linda, Black people ain't going to Broadway. And I said, maybe they would if you told them what was there. Maybe they would go. And he said, go for it. And I did. And then when I started working with Pat, and, she was saying to me about doing Blacks on Broadway. When she first told me, I said, oh my God, Pat, I would love it. Oh my God, that would be so great to really let people see that there are a lot of shows out there that we are employed at, and we put in everybody. So you don't have to be in a featured role. You can be an ensemble member. You could be, somebody that's a part of the cast. You could be a dancer in the cast, whatever you are. You're still a black person and you're still on that Broadway stage, and we're gonna give you your kudos and let you know we're proud of you. And when you see the Blacks on Broadway issue, I love how Pat has always had the pictures in color. So you
Yeah.
get to really see people, and everybody just, it just gives you this feeling of such a proud moment, that I just, every year I look forward to doing Blacks on Broadway. And when Pat said to me, well, Linda, let's do some of the Blacks off Broadway, because she said that the Broadway theaters, the off Broadway theaters were saying, well, what about us? What do you think? We don't have black people?
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, Pat, no problem. And then we started doing that too. So it's just a beautiful thing when you can let everybody know what's going on with our people and acknowledge people, because it's important when you do this type of work in terms of actors and playwrights and all of these creative people, that people acknowledge what you're doing and that they
Absolutely.
let you know what you do matters, and
And
that's what happens with those.
what is important is also that once you are on Broadway and you're doing, and you are also leading actors and so on, you are finally playing a role that Black people were not used to play years ago when you
Yeah.
were talking about. Because it's
Hmm.
so funny, because yesterday I saw, I think it was an older movie about Lucy Ball, and
Hmm.
the story of Lucy Ball, and La Chance was playing the maid of Lucy Ball.
Mm.
And I just
Hmm.
saw La Chance on Broadway being
Yes.
the star.
Yes.
And
And
it
Trouble
was,
in Mind.
yeah, it was such a, you know, it shook me, because I said, yes, now I understand, because there were only certain roles that were people were allowed to do and
Right.
cast to do.
Hmm.
Now, this is a revolution in a sense, and I
Hmm.
think it's fantastic. But I think also, I don't know if I'm right, but I think that the people who decide on Broadway who goes on Broadway or not, okay, the great white way, they
Hmm.
realized that many of these shows that were mainly Black, like The Lion King, like Hamilton, and shows like that that have
Hmm.
been on for years, they were very successful. They've been very, very
Hmm.
successful. And so they make money. And when
Hmm.
they
Hmm.
make money for you, then you're opening up your mind to do something that normally you wouldn't let do.
Hmm.
So I think that that was also an economic reason that it started opening up a little bit more or more. But where are we now with the presence of African American directors, playwright, actors, and producers on the Great White Way? We are quite advanced, right?
Hmm.
But now, in this moment, for example, there are 10 shows, right, on Broadway, which are with Black actors, Black directors, Black playwrights, and so on.
Hmm.
At the same time, it's not the best moment to be on Broadway or to be anywhere in theater because of this pandemic.
Yeah.
So many of these shows, which have already like a short run, like for example, Lackawanna Blues, it was
Hmm.
on MTC for not a long period. And then
Hmm.
it had a great success. And I remember asking Ruben Santiago Hudson if he thought that they were going to extend it. But he said, no, it's not
Hmm.
possible because the theater is already booked. And actually, I have
Right.
days between
Hmm.
Lackawanna Blues and then I'm starting to direct the next show, which is
Yeah.
Skeleton
Skeleton
Crew,
Crew.
right?
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Skeleton Crew also has a limited engagement, and then there is another show
Hmm.
starting already. And right now, this week, for example, I was supposed to to go and see Skeleton Crew, but it's been canceled because of COVID until the end of the week.
Right. Right.
So how does that work? These shows that are now playing and they have limited engagement, do you feel they are going to get an opportunity of being brought back to Broadway once Broadway opens up again? since they cannot now, like Chicken and Biscuit.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was closed down before time because of COVID.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
lost, all these shows have lost a lot of opportunities because of COVID. Do you think they're going to be able to recuperate that and be brought back to Broadway?
I mean, I'm not on that side of it. So what I would say is, I guess it depends on who are the producers and if they can afford to make that investment again to try to bring the shows back. You know, I mean, when you have shows that close down because of COVID, like when Aladdin was down, you know, but that of course is going to come back because that's Disney. So Disney has the money and they can take the loss, right? But when you're talking about these other shows, especially with Chicken and Biscuits, that was that Douglas Lyon's Broadway debut, you know, and then Thoughts of a Colored Man, that was Keenan Scott, the second Broadway debut. So you're talking about people that are, you know, it's their first time. Fortunately, like with the play Passover, which was Antoinette Nwandu's play, and she made her Broadway debut. That happened. That was one of the first shows that came back to Broadway, and it had its run and it finished. It was able to get through its whole run. But you know, you have these shows, and it's unfortunate that they're coming out at a time where COVID is actually ending the show way before it's supposed to end. Now, the question of them being able to remount the show, I mean, that's going to be totally up to whoever would be the producing bodies and also the people in the Broadway League that decide what shows are going to have a chance to rent those spaces.
That's what I was trying to aim at. Yeah. The Broadway
League. Right. But the thing is, so, I mean, well, I don't really have anything to do with that, but I'm saying that I guess it would really depend on if they feel that there is an audience for it and if they feel that people would come out. But then the other thing is with COVID, with everything going on, you don't really know when a show is going to play or not, because you'll think you're going to a show and then you'll get a text message that your show was canceled due to COVID because there was exposure. So right now it's just a very scary time for Broadway theaters and just theater in general, because, you know, I know that at one point, you know, there was the issue with even MJ, you know, that there was someone that was, you know, that was tested positive. And so it's one of these things where we don't know from night to night, you know, performance to performance, what's going to happen with these shows. But, you know, something like an MJ, you figure that that's going to have your big backers. So even if they have to hold off for a little bit, they can hold off, you know, just like with Skeleton Crew, you know, they're postponing, but they're not saying it's not going to happen. They're just saying it's going to happen, but it's going to be delayed. So to me, when it comes to these shows, it's going to all have to do with, you know, the schedule of shows, like you said, that are going to be going into that theater, because these things are booked way in advance. And it's just a question of, you know, what is going to happen with COVID and the restrictions that will, you know, might come back to New York. Because, you know, you don't want it to be that they shut Broadway down again. You're really hoping that won't happen.
No.
But with this whole COVID situation, who knows? Who knows what could happen? Who knows how bad things can get? So I would just hope that, you know, with some of these shows, if there's a possibility when COVID is not so prevalent and so much of a problem, that, you know, there would be a way to bring them back, even if they're not on Broadway, even if they get into an off-Broadway house, you know, just to try to build up that momentum to get them back to a Broadway house. But when it comes to things like that, I don't really know that side of the business. But I would hope that, you know, some of these shows would have a chance to you know, to live again. Because, well, when it comes to you know,
all the shows
because like Chicken and Biscuits was a lot of fun. Yeah, did you get to see Chicken and Biscuits?
Sorry?
Chicken and Biscuits. Did you get to see Chicken and Biscuits? Yeah, so you know, it was very fun.
I managed to see it just because I went, I think the second or third day that I was back from Italy, so right in the beginning. So I managed to see it. But I missed Slate Play, for example. I missed what did I miss? I missed a couple of shows that finished before I managed to get to them.
You know what show is still playing now that you should see is Clyde's. That's the new Linda Armstrong.
Fantastic.
Oh, okay. Yes. Oh, that was hilarious.
Clyde. I love it. It was fun. It was incredible. All the shows I've seen, are
Mhm.
incredible. I went to
Yeah.
see for the second time Hadestown. I wanted to go and see for the fourth time the Motown before it closed, but I won't be able to because I'm going back to Italy this
Oh, okay.
week. So, but yes. Well, you know what?
Mm.
We are at the end of our conversation. I wanted to ask you about
Okay.
Adelco because
Mhm.
Adelco is the only awards that are giving prizes to Black theater, and you are
Yes.
on the board of directors, and I think it's a very, very important organization
Thank you. Yes.
to support because
Yes.
it does incredible stuff. So
Yes. Adelco has been around for 49 years, and they are the only ones that recognize excellence in Black theater. And
exactly,
and Adelco is about developing audiences so that they can go and support the shows. You
yeah,
know,
that's exactly what
what
you
they
were
did.
saying at the beginning.
Yes, and what they did in the for this year at the 49th annual Adelco Awards, they did it as a retrospective, and it was absolutely beautiful because when you went into it was held in the Dwyer Cultural Center in Harlem, and when you went into the space, you saw the names of 27 theater companies that were given their due, and the nominations. Each of those theater companies, it listed 6 to 7 plays that they've done through the decades. And
Mhm.
then the Adulco members were able to vote and say which play would win the Viv Award. And it was absolutely wonderful that this was done. It was literally creating a history of Black theater in that moment. And that was mainly done by Adulco's president, Jackie Jeffries.
Yeah,
She did
we
the
have to thank
research,
Jackie for all the work she does, and she picked up from Miss
Yeah.
Grace, and she's really
Yes,
doing
she's fantastic.
a wonderful work. And when
Yes,
we were
yes.
talking about Pat, we were talking about Pat Stevenson, who is
Hmm.
owner and CEO and publisher of Harlem News.
Yes,
And
and
we have to
Pat is
thank
wonderful.
her.
Pat loves her people. Believe me,
Yeah,
Pat loves her people. She wants to make sure everybody gets good news. And there's nothing wrong with that because too many papers have all the negative stuff.
yeah.
Pat prints the positive,
Good
and
news
that's
you can
wonderful.
use.
Yeah, that's right. That's the slogan.
And on this note, thank you for having been with us. And
Thank you.
hope to see you soon, very, very soon. And thank
Same
you
here.
for being with once more with My Harlem Portrait. See you next Saturday, 12:30. Bye-bye.
Okay, thank you so much, Maria. Bye bye.
Bye, Linda.
Bye bye.